Welcome to the Strategic Oracle, the transmission space where timing meets soul and wealth begins with the rhythm. Let's begin. Here we are in the second episode of the Reversal of Arc series. And this one is why I unpublished my book and what returned. So I just wrote my 9th book and published it. And that's a lie. I wrote probably my 15th book, but this is the 9th book that I've published. So 9 is a number of wholeness. 9 is what returns you to you, and then you can start a new cycle. And so I felt that there was a completion with this book. And this book was in its incubation period. Any of you who've written a book know that, you have this idea and you're really excited about it. And then this idea that pulses through, it's longer and has more of a tail and has more energy. And so you're staring at that blank screen and you're like, no, this has to come to life. This is going to come through and this is going to be a beautiful book. And I'm going to, do the arc of the story of the book. And it's going to, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, and it's a telling, right? Like it's a story. And again, even if it's nonfiction, and yet you go through a transformation when you write a book. Like when you truly birth a book, I'll go even further. There's something that's coming from you, right? Like there's that, like fecundness of the whole, like, piece of the fullness of what has to come out. So there's a ripening there. And then you're feeding it and you're so excited about it. And you literally push other things away because you become subsumed at some point. And then there's that moment where, oh no, it's totally stark. You question everything. You wonder if this is really wanting to be written. You wonder if anybody's going to read it. Literally all the feels and all the things. And it doesn't matter whether it's your first book or your 27th book. I can only speak to 9, but again, I've written about 15. And so I'm good at this. I like this. I consider myself an author. I've had bestsellers, when I was positioning this book to be a bestseller, but I wanted the book to be its own energy. That was really important to me. And the woman, Amy Collette, who I used, is an amazing book alchemist. She holds the space for you. So you have those big, huge, pregnant moments of fullness, and it's held and it's mirrored back, which is amazing. And then you have those moments where you're confused. Does this want to be in the book? Does that want to be in the book? How does it want to be brought out into the world? And so went through and actually 2 iterations of this book. So we started 2 years ago. So I just made a pivot in the way that my business was structured. I talked about it last time. So here I am, and I'm in another, not really a pivot because it's a book, right? So I'm like, I've done this before. This is beautiful. Have this beautiful coach. I can do this. And then, we're starting, and I wrote a behemoth. Honestly, it was like approaching that 400 to 500 page mark. Now it's too big. It's too unwieldy. It feels like a guide. It actually feels like a program. So I paused, let it go for probably a handful of months. And then it was about this time last year, actually it was in the spring last year. And I was like, okay, here we go. And had a beautiful meeting with Amy. And she asked me, what do you want to talk about? And I so appreciated that because I can ask my clients, but those things we do for our clients, we don't often do for ourselves. And I said, I really want to talk about these energies. I want to talk about the masculine and the feminine and how it's all coming together. And I want to talk about, how things are all broken now and how people are overwhelmed. And I want to help them find their way. And I want to, make it about my work because, of course, that's what I do. And so I want the astrology to help them, and I want their signatures to help them. I want the strategies to help them. And, I just couldn't stop talking. And she's like, well, then let's do that. And so we spent a year lovingly, beautifully giving this birthing of this book all that it deserved. I worked with the designers and the layout people and the editors, and I got a book team together, and I, got people to help me with the titling and help me with the, with the launching of it. And so I picked the perfect day. Of course, I picked the perfect day in its rhythm, in its energy, in its beautiful ability to bring something out in the world and make it brilliantly visible. And so here we were, and we just marked to that time. And of course, we can have those stories where, you know, how you go to a wedding and then you find out later, like all the things that went wrong. Yes, it was just like that. I mean, there were so many things behind the scenes, but yet it always got pulled through and it always got pulled out. And so here it is. And here it is on that sparkly, gorgeous day. And I am excited about this launch. We've been working for so long. The book is excited about its launch. It's so ready. And we, you know, hit the launch and it does all the things it's supposed to do. It hits that #1 hot new release. It hits #1 in its categories. It hits #2 in women in business category, which I was personally thrilled with just to get into the top 10. And this is everything that I wanted. And yet, towards the end of this cycle of the book, is this enough? And yes, you know, yes, because it's the first of a 3-part series, and you know, and then you just kind of talk your way through it, right? Because you've rationalized, of course you have, because it just makes sense, right? Everything's put together, and yet, at the same time as I'm ready to bring this book out into the world on that beautiful week at the end of June this year, and it's just that stunningly astrological week. As we get to that moment, I'm realizing that the week is even more than I thought it was going to be. The week is anything you plant in that week is going to be the trajectory that you're on for the next 15 years. And I've already been wondering and ruminating and percolating on the fact that, is this book enough? Does this book do what I want it to do? And so there's starting to be a discordant ring, but I'm thinking, it's been a while since I've written a book, you know, you just talk yourself out of it. Like, you know, it's in print now and it's beautiful and everybody loves it. Just relax. You know, I'm an intuitive visionary, so I've already moved on to the next thing. You know, this is one of your relative weaknesses, you know, let it plant, let it germinate, let it have its bounty, have its harvest, let it fully bloom in life. And yet, because that same week, just so happens there are no coincidences in the world when you're fully attuned. Just that same week, I'm invited to rooms that are the right rooms for me. And one of them sounded like it was going to be the right room, but it really wasn't. That's okay. It was a little practice round. And then the next room I get in, my soul feels seen. I'm nervous. I'm really nervous. I have not hung around with billionaires. I've not hung around with 9-figure millionaires, other than a few friends, other than as a guide. But here I am being invited into this room as a peer. And I quite don't know how to fit that. And yet I know it's the right time astrologically. I know it's the right time. This is what I've been asking for. This is what I've been readying for. This is the moment. And so on the heels of this, I've got this book launch. And so I'm in the room and the discordance gets louder for the book. It gets really louder because I'm thinking about it and I'm like, this book, there aren't people in this room that would want to read this book. But yes, I have audience that wants to read the book. Yes, of course I do. Yes, you know, yes. And I leave, I launch, and then only a few days later, I realize this wasn't the right move. This actually wasn't the right move. And so then, you know, you meditate, you walk, you maybe talk to someone who could reflect this back to you. But honestly, this new room I was in, I didn't have a person that I could really lean into and would understand. So, okay, that door is shut. And then people around me, what am I going to talk to people that have just like telling me how amazing the book is? Can I talk to the book itself? On and on and on. Lasted about 3 days. My cycle's pretty quick. And so you know, you're in that like prayer moment of, okay, please just give me guidance, you know, and you think, well, what's the big deal? You can leave the book, you can walk away. It didn't feel like that. It felt much bigger than that because it felt if I left the book where it was, I was anchoring myself to old energy that wasn't belonging in the world. Never mind trying to perpetuate it, because I had promised to do book speaking, book tour, book launch for another 9 months. And so this book was going to be something I was wearing now for almost a year while I would be writing its next, you know, brother or sister book. And it was an old outfit. It was an old energy. And I thought, okay, what if I just left it and walked away? No, now there's residue out there. It doesn't fit. So the first call I had to make was to this beautiful woman who had sat with me for 2 years, holding the first iteration, knowing that it was too much, and then birthing the second one. And we both love it. She would often tell me, she's like, I get lost in it. Can I tell you when an editor and then the book layout person and then your publisher and your book alchemist are all telling you, like, we're getting lost in it. It is so beautiful. It is so good. And yet it's not exactly right. And what I know is that in this new era with these energies, it's that precision and the alignment. I've been talking about this for months. That is so important. And so for me to pick up the phone and call her up and say, I need you just to breathe. Just take a deep breath. Give her a moment. Let her pulse in that. I think I need to pull the book. And then saying it out loud and having those words live before I even know what they mean. And yet I did. And I left her a message and I talked about it. And she told me later she listened to it and she said, of course, shocked, right? It did all the things we wanted it to do. It was going to do all the things we were going to do. We were talking about future. We were talking about all the things. And yet she felt it too. She wouldn't be my mirror in this if she couldn't also feel it. She said, okay, let's talk about it. And so we hopped on a call, we talked about it, and we realized as difficult as it was the right answer. Because what did that mean? What that meant was that I was choosing to deliver my work in a different way. And oh, by the way, anybody who's been with me for a while won't be surprised when I say this next little bit. This next little bit is about me spending almost $2 million in the last handful of years on things like going viral in video, didn't work. Launching XYZ to reach the masses, didn't work. Doing a tiny offer to get the appeal through the ads, through the things, remember those? Didn't work. I mean, I can go on hiring this PR person, hiring that marketing agency, hiring Brendan Kane and Jeff King, who are masters in the 1 million followers and the communication. And I could match it with my quiz. And we were all like doing the things and I was all in. And they said, oh, we'll hang out with you until this gets done. It doesn't matter when your contract's over. We will hang out with you until it gets done. Not the first person to say that, not the last. And then a few months later, just saying, scratching their heads, I don't know why it's working. So this is for you if you have felt this way, that everything looks right. You are following the right experts. You have the right coaches, or you have the right strategists. You have the right message. It's vibrating in you. It's resonating. And yet it may not just be your mode. So what has become crystal clear to me, and oh, by the way, it was clear to me before, but I was too obstinate to say, yes to it, that I am all about being in the right rooms. I've been told by people, you need to meet Kim, you need to experience her. So now I am finally listening. And so if I am to be in the right rooms, speaking to the people in a very intimate and a very deep way, then how can I also be launching something for the masses? And something that is a really easy entry point. It doesn't take too much. I don't even know the people or how they've purchased something when it's like a book. It's out there living in the world. Now, if it were mine and the message for today, then it's beautiful because then that message holds my energy. The message gets to be conveyed and it gets to ripple effect, can be far beyond what my energy is to make that effort. And yet, if it's not the right message, even if it's all the right information, but not in the right format, then it needs not to live. And so here I am, after all that SEO, after the publishing support, after the top tier coaching, after the book in its beautifulness, here I am, listening to that ache inside, listening to what doesn't make sense, following my intuition and letting its wisdom guide me. Because even though it doesn't make sense to anybody else, it's starting to make sense to me. And I'm seeing the evidence in it after only just a few moments. It's like only a few breaths. I unwound and been unwinding things for weeks No to those tours, no to the audio, no to the next release, no to the layout the way it exists. No, I mean, I would say no without anything replacing it. So that silence has been vibrating, that frequency has been pulsing. And with that, I'm starting to get the return of that. I'm starting to see the wave come back as, yes, this is exactly right. Because your system is so much deeper than this. There's such a power that the power gets rippled through its depth, not through its reach. And so I'm laying the foundation for that. And I've built all the businesses and done all the models, but I'm also an oracle. And so it's with that oracleness that things might not make sense right now, but the picture comes alive. Now, when I do it for other people, it hits in a moment. When I do it for myself, it's cloudy and it's fuzzy and it doesn't make sense for a while. So if anything about what I've said to you is resonating, then you know you are in this moment of reversal. That what you've been putting out and what the way the world is reflecting back to you is out of sync and out of rhythm. So this is an extreme example of it, which is why I'm sharing it. Because in its extremity, I want you to be able to see some nuances with your own life and your own business. Those people that don't return the calls or those messages that you sent out that are just in there in the ether without really clicking, and you tell yourself it's the noise. You tell yourself it's the algorithm. You tell yourself you're you didn't say it the right way, or you don't have the right funnel, you didn't do the right follow-on. I'm here to tell you that is absolutely not true. Because what I've known is that in this last 5-year block, when we had that initiation of the new era, and we've gone through its infancy and we've gone through its wrangling, and we're here now in its next wave, which is a very big wave over the next 2 years. In this wave, we want to be riding it on the right surfboard in the right direction. And so because of that, these little tiny things that we're trying to rationalize away are starting to cascade and become its own tidal wave. And when you're faced against the tidal wave, you have no other option than to take a different direction. And guess what? My tidal wave was going in the right direction. I could have ridden the wave, but it wouldn't have been mine. And so I can't sit here and tell you about that, that misfire or that breakdown or that collapse, and then say there's a reversal there, which is what I diagnose. And then we look at the patterning out of that to then see what your right momentum is. And so I've pulled the book. I'm here in this decision moment where I recognize that my work is asset creation. It's asset first. And it's in a sovereignty and in a potency that is not for the masses. So I am no longer going to be doing what I had been doing for the last 5 years. I'm actually going to the point before that. The last time that I had done looked at my entire business and said, I need a full stop reiteration. Now, I had talked about, I'd gotten rid of the team that I had built up, and that seemed like a huge pivot. Now I look on it now and I say, that was literally just pivoting along the same point. It wasn't a massive shift. This is a massive shift, just like it was in 2019 when I could just feel the crest of the wave going to arc in that top of 2020 timeframe. And I said, I absolutely need to reposition myself. And I went a completely different direction. I went from that typical, business consulting, typical astrological sessioning, and I had them very separate, and I brought them together, and I said, I'm going to go quote unquote high end, and I'm going to go online. I hadn't done that yet. And I did. I literally wrote a brand book, wrote a marketing guide, wrote a PR plan, wrote a sales strategy guide, looked at my fonts and my logos and my colors and my palette. And I'm doing all of that right now. And I want to tell you, it's coming together like that. It's but a moment, and I have all of this material that I've already curated to give me a completely different launch point. And so you're right at the precipice of that. And my work is incredibly deep, and it is I'm just going to snap my fingers. It is like that with its precision. I can go to your origin point, and I can look to see where your pattern started reversing. And so what it looks like for my clients is you might come to me because the audience isn't responding, or you may come to me because you are not performing at a level that you deem to be effortless. And you know that you can because you've been in that flow before. And so things are starting to feel just, uncomfortable or wrong or too much efforting. And so, a gentleman came to me and he was saying that I am here as an extremely successful author, and I am on my second work and I can't write it. I'm missing deadlines. I want you to tell me how to change that. And I looked at him, I said, this isn't accountability. He said, I know. And we went to his origin point and we found his moment of like literally when it started to collapse. And then we went back to it and we altered it. And so then of course, the story, how this ends. Of course, the second book came out. It surpassed the first. All the things. And it seemingly had nothing to do with the book. It was about being lovable. How do I love myself enough? Another person has come to me and she's a storyteller. And so she's out in the world and she's has a gorgeous series of books and she has a beautiful podcast and her numbers are amazing and her dollars are incredible. And yet she said, I don't really quite feel like this is it. And she was like asking me more, what's next? And I had to go back to her and say, that's because you're telling someone else's stories. How do you make your own stories? And then, of course, that brought up a lot of visibility things and how is she hiding and all the things. And so we've gone back to that point. And now she's in the room with 10-figure people. So this is what happens when you know something's wrong and it's really fuzzy and I can't quite figure out the right answers. And I've hired the people and I've done the things. But. It's that moment of the misfire that you want to go and you want to recalibrate because you want to reclaim what is truly yours. And in this new era, it is beyond imagining what is yours. And so here we are in this story of reversal, getting ready to say, what do you need to burn down? Maybe it's not a full scale. Maybe it's just a minor tweak, but the reverberations of that are incredible. Or maybe it's something you want to withdraw or release because you're looking for something that's more potent for you to arise. So I'm here to say I didn't lose anything when I unpublished my book. I reclaimed everything, and so can you. You've been listening to The Strategic Oracle, where success isn't scaled from speed, but from soul. If this stirred something real, follow it. Apply for activation, enter the vault, or pause right here. Integration is leadership too. Because the truth is, you were never meant to chase the timing. You are meant to become it.